Alien girl was selling matches in the snow until a human single dad took her home for Christmas. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes over the industrial district of New Geneva Station, a human colony perched on the outer rim of the Andromeda trading corridor. Most species avoided this sector during winter cycles, finding Earth-standard cold unbearable. But for Ethan Cole, a single father working double shifts at the station's recycling plant, the biting wind was just another part of life. Ethan pulled his worn jacket tighter as he walked home through the dimly lit streets, his boots crunching through the fresh powder. Christmas was 3 days away, and he'd managed to scrape together enough credits for a decent meal and a small gift for his daughter, Maya. It wasn't much, but after his wife had passed 2 years ago, every little victory felt monumental. The station's holiday decorations twinkled above him, strings of lights swaying in the artificial atmosphere generators, and for a moment, he allowed himself to feel something close to hope. That's when he saw her. Huddled against the wall of a closed shop, barely visible through the swirling snow, was a small figure. At first, Ethan thought it was a child, but as he approached, he realized with a start that she wasn't human. Her skin had a faint lavender tint, and her large, dark eyes seemed to take up half her face. Delicate antennae drooped from her forehead, trembling with each gust of wind. She wore nothing but a thin, tattered dress that offered no protection from the cold, and in her small hands, she clutched a box of matches. The girl looked up at him with those enormous eyes, and Ethan felt his heart clench. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 in human years, though he knew different species aged differently. Her lips, tinged slightly blue from the cold, moved as she whispered something in a language he didn't recognize. Then, in heavily accented standard, she said, "Matches, sir? Only 2 credits for fire." Ethan crouched down to her level, ignoring the cold seeping through his pants. "Hey there, sweetheart. What are you doing out here alone? Where are your parents?" The girl's antennae drooped even further. "Gone," she said simply. "Ship left 3 days ago. I sell matches now. You bought." A cold fury settled in Ethan's chest that had nothing to do with the weather. He knew what this was. He'd heard stories of traders abandoning unwanted crew members, especially non-humans who couldn't afford passage fees. It was illegal, technically, but enforcement was lax this far from the core systems. And during the holiday season, when everyone was focused on their own celebrations, it was easy for people to look the other way. "How long have you been out here?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice gentle. The girl tilted her head, thinking. 3 nights. Maybe 4. Hard to count. "You buy matches?" "I have many." She opened the box with shaking hands. Inside were perhaps a dozen matches, cheap chemical ones that barely lit. Ethan could buy 1,000 of them for half a credit at any convenience store. But this child, this abandoned little soul, was trying to survive by selling them on a freezing street corner. Ethan made a decision. "I'll take them all," he said, pulling out his credit chip. "But you know what? It's too cold to make the transaction out here. Why don't you come with me to somewhere warm, and we can sort out the payment there? I was just about to get some hot chocolate." "You like hot chocolate?" The girl's eyes widened, and her antennae perked up slightly. "Hot chocolate? I have heard of this. It is a human drink, yes? Made from plant seeds." "That's right. Come on, let's get you out of this cold." Ethan stood and offered his hand. The girl stared at it for a long moment, then slowly reached out and placed her small, freezing hand in his. Her skin felt papery and cold, and Ethan had to resist the urge to just scoop her up and run. Instead, he led her gently down the street toward his apartment complex. As they walked, the girl spoke in a soft voice. "My name is Zora. I am Melani. Do you know Melani people?" Ethan shook his head. "I'm afraid I don't, but I'd like to learn. My name is Ethan, and I have a daughter named Maya. She's 6 years old." Zara's antennae quivered with what Ethan was beginning to recognize as interest or curiosity. "A daughter? She is lucky. Fathers are important in Melani culture. Mothers too, but fathers teach the survival skills. Does your daughter know many survival skills?" Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "I try to teach her what I can. Her mother passed away a while back, so it's just the 2 of us now." "Oh," Zara said softly. "Then she is like me. We are both without mothers. They reached Ethan's apartment building, a modest structure that had seen better days but was clean and warm. As they climbed the stairs to the third floor, Ethan found himself wondering what he was going to tell Maya. His daughter had a big heart, but bringing home a stray alien child 3 days before Christmas was definitely not part of the plan. The door to their apartment opened before Ethan could reach for his key. Maya stood there, her dark curls bouncing as she looked up at her father with excitement. Then her eyes landed on Zara, and her mouth formed a perfect O of surprise. "Dad? Who's your friend?" Ethan guided Zara inside, grateful for the wave of warmth that greeted them. "Maya, this is Zara. She was selling matches outside in the snow, and I thought she could use some hot chocolate and a warm place to sit for a while. Is that okay with you?" Maya's face lit up with the kind of pure, uncomplicated joy that only children seemed capable of. "Of course. Hi, Zara. I'm Maya. Do you want to see my room? I have toys and books and a really cool night light that makes stars on the ceiling." Zara looked overwhelmed, her antennae twitching in multiple directions. "I do not want to intrude. I can drink the hot chocolate quickly and go back to my corner. There are still matches to sell." "Nonsense," Ethan said firmly. "It's too cold out there for anyone, let alone a child. You're staying here tonight, and we'll figure out the rest tomorrow. No arguments." He'd meant to sound authoritative, but Zara's eyes filled with tears, and her antennae drooped in what he was learning to recognize as sadness or relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Ethan Cole. You are very kind. The galaxy does not have many kind beings." Maya grabbed Zara's hand. "Come on. You can sit on the couch, and Dad will make us hot chocolate. He makes the best hot chocolate in the whole station. He puts in extra marshmallows when he thinks I'm not looking." As Maya led Zara to the living room, chattering about Christmas decorations and the presents she hoped Santa might bring, Ethan headed to the kitchen. His mind was racing. He needed to contact station services, find out if there were any Melani ships in the area, figure out what to do about food and clothing for Zara. But first, he needed to make sure she was warm and fed. He prepared 3 mugs of hot chocolate, adding extra marshmallows to all of them, and carried them to the living room. What he found there made him pause in the doorway. Maya had wrapped Zara in the fuzzy blanket from the couch, and both girls were sitting close together, giggling about something. Zara's antennae were fully upright now, waving gently as she spoke. The color was returning to her face, that frightening blue tinge fading to reveal the natural lavender of her skin. And then, Maya was saying, "Santa comes down the chimney and leaves presents for all the good children. But we don't have a chimney, so Dad says Santa uses the air vent instead." Zara's eyes were enormous. "A large human male breaks into homes through ventilation systems? This is allowed." Maya giggled. "It's not breaking in if you leave him cookies. It's tradition." "Ah," Zara said seriously. "A tribute. For safe passage. This makes sense. On my world, we leave offerings for the night spirits so they do not steal our dreams. It is similar." Ethan cleared his throat and brought over the hot chocolate. Zara took her mug carefully, holding it in both hands and breathing in the steam. She took a tentative sip, and her antennae shot straight up. "This is wonderful. So sweet and warm. And these floating white things." "Marshmallows," Maya said proudly. "They're the best part. Watch, you can catch them with your tongue." For the next hour, Ethan watched as his daughter taught an alien child the finer points of hot chocolate consumption, Christmas traditions, and the plot of every animated movie she'd ever seen. Zara absorbed it all with intense focus, asking questions that were sometimes profound and sometimes hilarious. "So the reindeer fly because of magic? Not because of anti-gravity generators? If the snowman comes to life, does he have consciousness? Does he fear melting? Why would anyone kiss under a poisonous plant? Is this a human dominance display?" Maya answered each question with the confidence of a 6-year-old who knew everything about everything, and Ethan found himself smiling despite the complicated situation he'd gotten himself into. Eventually, Maya's questions turned to Zara's life. "Where do you live, Zara? Is your house far away?" Zara's antennae drooped slightly. "I lived on a ship, a trading vessel called the Dawnrunner, but the captain said I ate too much and took up space. He said my parents did not leave enough credits for my passage, so I had to leave. He gave me the matches and said to sell them." Maya's face crumpled with distress. "That's terrible. Dad, We have to help her. Ethan had been thinking about nothing else since he'd found Zara. I know, sweetheart. We will. But it's late now, and we all need rest. Zara, you can sleep in Maya's room tonight. I'll take the couch. I can share my bed. Maya said immediately. It's big enough for both of us. Please, Dad. Ethan looked at Zara, who seemed overwhelmed by Maya's enthusiasm. Is that okay with you, Zara? You don't have to if you're uncomfortable. Zara's antennae quivered. I would like that very much. On the Dawnrunner, I slept alone in the cargo bay. It was very cold and very lonely. Sharing space with a friend sounds wonderful. Then it's settled, Ethan said, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the hot chocolate. Let's get you both ready for bed. The nighttime routine was more complicated than usual. Ethan found some of Maya's old pajamas for Zara, though they were too big and hung loosely on her small frame. He learned that Melanie didn't require the same hygiene routines as humans, but appreciated a warm shower nonetheless. Zara's delighted laughter as she discovered running water made Ethan realize just how deprived her life on that ship must have been. When both girls were finally tucked into Maya's bed, Ethan sat on the edge and smiled at the sight of them. Maya had already claimed Zara as her new best friend, and Zara looked more relaxed than she had since he'd found her. Dad, Maya said sleepily, can Zara stay for Christmas? Ethan glanced at Zara, who was looking at him with those huge, hopeful eyes. We'll see, sweetheart. Sleep now. Tomorrow's another day. He turned off the light, leaving only Maya's star projector glowing softly on the ceiling. As he closed the door, he heard Maya whisper, Don't worry, Zara. My dad's the best. He'll figure something out. He always does. Ethan hoped his daughter's faith in him wasn't misplaced. The next morning, Ethan woke early and immediately got to work. While the girls still slept, he made calls to station services, the Colonial Integration Office, and even the Interspecies Children's Welfare Bureau. What he learned made his blood boil. The Melani were a small, peaceful species from a low-gravity world. They were often exploited by traders who promised transport and then abandoned them when credits ran short. Worse, because the Melani had limited political representation in the Galactic Council, cases of abandonment were rarely prosecuted. The station had no Melani population, no consulate, and no easy way to contact their home world. As for Zara, she was technically classified as an unaccompanied minor, which meant she'd be placed in a group home until they could locate her family or arrange transport back to her home world. The problem was that the nearest group home was 3 sectors away, and with the holiday season, transport wouldn't be available for at least 2 weeks. In the meantime, she'd be placed in the station's temporary holding facility. Ethan knew what that meant. He'd seen the facility once. It was clean and functional, but cold and institutional. The idea of putting Zara there, especially after she'd already been abandoned once, made him feel sick. There has to be another option, he told the caseworker on the other end of the comm. She's a child. Can't she stay with a foster family temporarily? The caseworker, a tired-looking woman named Sandra, sighed. Mr. Cole, we have exactly 0 registered foster families willing to take in non-human children on this station. Most people don't know how to care for alien species, and frankly, they don't want to learn. If you know someone willing to take her in temporarily, we can fast-track the paperwork. Ethan looked toward Maya's bedroom door. He thought about his tiny apartment, his modest paycheck, the careful budgeting that went into every meal. He thought about the complications of caring for a child from an entirely different species. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Then he thought about Zara's face when she'd tasted hot chocolate for the first time. What if I took her in? Temporarily, just until you can arrange proper placement. Sandra's eyebrows shot up. You? Mr. Cole, you're already a single parent. Adding another child, especially one from an unfamiliar species, is a significant responsibility. I know, but she needs someone right now, and I have the space. It's just temporary, right? Sandra studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll send you the paperwork. But Mr. Cole, I should warn you, temporary placements have a way of becoming permanent when no one else steps up. Are you prepared for that possibility? Ethan thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Send the paperwork. When Maya and Zara emerged from the bedroom an hour later, rubbing sleep from their eyes, Ethan had breakfast ready. Pancakes, which he'd learned from a quick galactic database search, were compatible with Melani digestive systems. He'd even found a recipe for a sweet syrup that Melanie traditionally enjoyed. Zara's reaction to her first Earth-style pancake was almost as enthusiastic as her reaction to hot chocolate. Her antennae danced with joy, and she made a small humming sound that Ethan guessed was the Melanie equivalent of a satisfied sigh. "This is the best food I have ever tasted," Zara declared. "On the ship, I ate mostly protein paste. It was gray and tasted like sadness." Maya giggled. "Sadness doesn't have a taste, silly. It does on the Dawnrunner," Zara said seriously, and something about the way she said it made both Ethan and Maya sad. As they ate, Ethan explained the situation. "Zara, I've been talking to some people this morning. We're going to make sure you're taken care of properly. How would you feel about staying here with Maya and me for a while? At least until we can figure out the best place for you." Zara's antennae went completely still, which Ethan had learned meant she was feeling intense emotion. "Here? With you and Maya? But I have no credits. I cannot pay for food or shelter." "You don't need to pay," Ethan said gently. "You're a child, Zara. Children aren't supposed to worry about things like that. Adults take care of children. That's how it works." "Not in my experience," Zara said quietly. "My parents tried, but they got sick from a station plague. The ship captain said he would care for me, but he lied. Adults often lie." Ethan knelt down beside her chair, putting himself at eye level. "I'm not going to lie to you, Zara. I can't promise everything will be perfect, and I don't know what the future holds. But I promise that while you're here, you'll be safe, warm, and fed. You'll have a bed to sleep in and people who care about you. That's a promise I can keep." Zara's eyes filled with tears, and her antennae trembled. "Why? Why would you do this for me? I am nothing to you. Just an alien child you found in the snow." "Because," Maya chimed in, reaching over to hold Zara's hand. "That's what good people do. They help when they can. Right, Dad?" "Right," Ethan agreed, his own throat tight with emotion. "And besides, Maya's been asking for a sister for years. Early Christmas present." Zara looked between them, tears streaming down her lavender cheeks. Then she nodded, and a sound came from her that Ethan had never heard before. It was something between a laugh and a cry, and her antennae wrapped around themselves in what he instinctively understood was the Melanie version of a hug. The rest of the day was spent making Zara feel at home. Ethan used some of his carefully saved credits to buy her proper clothes, warm and sized for her small frame. They discovered that Melanie ran colder than humans, so he added an extra blanket to Maya's bed and turned up the apartment's heat a few degrees. Maya appointed herself as Zara's guide to everything human. She showed her how to use the entertainment system, taught her the words to Christmas carols, and even attempted to explain the rules of checkers, though that devolved into them making up their own game that involved stacking the pieces into towers. In the evening, Ethan took both girls to the station's small Christmas market. It was nothing fancy, just a collection of vendor stalls set up in the main plaza, but the girls were enchanted. Zara had never seen anything like it. The lights, the music, the smells of roasted nuts and sweet pastries, all of it was new and wonderful to her. They stopped at a stall selling handmade ornaments, and Maya insisted that Zara pick one out. Zara's hand hovered over the selection before settling on a small glass star that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "This one," she said softly. "It reminds me of hope. May I have it?" "Of course," Ethan said, paying the vendor. "We'll put it on our tree when we get home." "You have a tree inside your home?" Zara asked, puzzled. "Does it not require soil and sunlight?" Maya giggled. "It's not a real tree, silly. It's a Christmas tree. Come on, I'll show you when we get back." As they walked through the market, Ethan noticed the stares they were getting. A human man with two little girls, one human and one obviously alien, wasn't exactly common on New Geneva Station. Most of the looks were curious, some were warm, but a few were cold and disapproving. One man, clearly drunk, stumbled into their path. "Hey," he slurred. "What are you doing with that thing? Taking in strays now? That's how you get diseases, you know." Ethan felt anger surge through him, but before he could respond, Maya stepped forward. Despite being only 6 years old, she planted her hands on her hips and glared at the man with all the fierce protectiveness of a mother bear. "That's my friend you're talking about. Her name is Zara, and she's nice and smart, and she's staying with us. You're just mean and drunk, and you should go away." The man blinked in surprise, and several nearby vendors started laughing. One of them, a large woman who ran the pastry stall, called out, "You heard the little lady. Move along, Dan, before I ban you from my stall." The drunk man mumbled something and wandered off. Ethan squeezed Maya's shoulder proudly, and when he looked down at Zara, he saw that her antennae were pointing straight at Maya in what he was learning to recognize as deep affection. "You defended me," Zara said wonderingly. "You stood up to that male, even though he was much bigger. That was very brave, Maya." Maya shrugged. "That's what friends do. They protect each other." Later that night, after the girls were asleep, Ethan sat in his small living room and stared at the Christmas tree. It was a modest artificial thing, decorated with ornaments collected over the years. Zara's glass star now hung in a place of honor near the top, catching the light from the other decorations. His comm unit chirped with an incoming message. It was Sandra from the station services. "Mr. Cole, I wanted to update you on Zara's case. We've been in contact with the Melani homeworld. Her parents did indeed pass away from a plague, and she has no other family. The ship captain who abandoned her has been flagged, but frankly, prosecution is unlikely. As for Zara's future, well, the Melani government is grateful that she's being cared for, but they don't have the resources to arrange transport or placement right now. Their world is dealing with the aftermath of that plague, and it's all hands on deck. If you're willing to continue as her guardian, they're happy to grant you temporary custody. Eventually, when things settle down, they may be able to arrange for her return to their world, but that could be months or even years." Ethan absorbed this information. Years. He'd opened his home for a night, maybe a week, and now he was looking at potentially years. He thought about the extra mouth to feed, the complications of raising a child from another species, the questions and stares they'd face. Then he thought about Zara's face when she'd tasted hot chocolate, when she'd picked out her star ornament, when Maya had defended her in the market. "I understand," Ethan said. "We'll make it work." Sandra's smile was visible even over the comm. "I had a feeling you'd say that. I'll send over the paperwork. And Mr. Cole, you're a good man. That little girl is lucky to have found you." After the call ended, Ethan sat in the quiet apartment and let himself feel the weight of what he'd just agreed to. Then Maya's bedroom door cracked open, and both girls peeked out. "Dad," Maya whispered, "is everything okay? We heard you talking." Ethan smiled and waved them over. They climbed onto the couch on either side of him, snuggling close. "Everything's fine, girls. I was just thinking about Christmas. Will Zara still be here for Christmas?" Maya asked hopefully. Ethan looked at Zara, whose antennae were quivering with nervous hope. "Zara's going to be here for Christmas, and for a long time after that if she wants to be." "How does that sound?" Zara's antennae shot straight up, and she made that sound again, the one that was half laugh and half cry. "I want to be. I want to very much. I will be good, I promise. I will learn all your human customs, and I will not be too much trouble." "You're not trouble," Ethan said firmly, pulling both girls close. "Your family." The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Ethan taught Zara about Christmas traditions, explaining the concept of Santa Claus and gift-giving. Zara listened with rapt attention, her analytical mind trying to make sense of the mythology. "So this Santa Claus judges whether children have been good or bad throughout the year?" Zara asked, "and then rewards or punishes them accordingly. This is a powerful being. Does he have jurisdiction over non-human children as well?" Maya giggled. "Santa delivers presents to all good children, everywhere, even aliens. But I have only been good for 3 days," Zara worried. "Before that, I was on the ship, and I was often punished for being troublesome. The captain said I asked too many questions and got underfoot." "Will Santa know about that?" Ethan's heart ached at the fear in her voice. "Zara, listen to me. What happened on that ship wasn't your fault. You were a child being mistreated by adults who should have known better. Santa knows the difference between children who are truly naughty and children who are just trying to survive. And in this house, asking questions is encouraged, not punished." Zara's antennae quivered. "Truly? I can ask anything? Anything at all? Then I have many questions about human reproduction and why you only have one son, and what makes the refrigerator cold inside when the apartment is warm, and why do you have hair on your head, but not on your arms like some humans do?" Maya dissolved into giggles, and even Ethan had to laugh. "How about we tackle those questions one at a time, over the next few weeks? On Christmas Eve, Ethan made a traditional dinner that he'd looked up in his mother's old recipe files. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, and for dessert, cookies decorated by the girls earlier that day. Zara had approached cookie decorating with the same intensity she brought to everything, creating intricate patterns with the icing that were actually quite beautiful. As they ate, Zara asked, "Why is this day special?" "Maya says tomorrow is when Santa comes, so why celebrate tonight?" "Christmas Eve is about anticipation," Ethan explained. "It's about being together with people you love and looking forward to the joy that's coming. Some people think it's even more special than Christmas Day itself." "I understand," Zara said thoughtfully. "It is like the Melani Festival of Coming Light. We celebrate the night before the longest day of our year, gathering together in darkness to wait for the sun. It is a time of hope." "That's beautiful," Ethan said. "Maybe you can teach us about Melani celebrations, and we can honor those too." Zara's antennae performed a complex dance that Ethan was starting to recognize as deep happiness. "I would like that very much. My parents used to celebrate coming light with sweet cakes and storytelling. I remember my mother's stories about the ancient Melani who first learned to cultivate light plants in the deep caves. I could tell those stories to you and Maya. We'd love to hear them," Ethan assured her. After dinner, they settled in the living room with the lights dimmed and only the Christmas tree glowing. Ethan read The Night Before Christmas while both girls snuggled against him on the couch. Zara interrupted frequently with questions that ranged from logical to hilarious. Why would anyone want a creature with hooves on their roof? Is the structural integrity not a concern? If Santa is immortal, does he experience time differently than mortals? Is one night for us like mere seconds to him? What is a sugar plum and why do they dance in people's heads? Is this a parasite? Maya answered each question with the absolute confidence of a 6-year-old, even when her answers made no sense at all. Listening to them debate the logistics of Santa's worldwide journey was the best entertainment Ethan had experienced in years. When it was time for bed, Maya insisted on leaving out cookies and milk for Santa. Zara carefully added one of her matches to the plate as her own offering. "My people believe in reciprocal exchanges," she explained seriously. "If Santa brings gifts, I should offer something in return. I know matches are not much, but they are all I have." Ethan had to turn away for a moment to compose himself. When he turned back, he said gently, "That's very thoughtful, Zara. I'm sure Santa will appreciate it." After the girls were finally asleep, Ethan set to work. He'd managed to get gifts for both of them. Nothing extravagant, but meaningful. For Maya, a new tablet loaded with educational games and books. For Zara, he'd found something he hoped would mean as much to her as he thought it would. He placed the presents under the tree, ate the cookies the girls had left out, and carefully took Zara's match, placing it in his pocket. Then he added one more present under the tree, something he'd been working on in secret. On Christmas morning, Ethan was woken not by an alarm but by excited shrieks from the living room. He stumbled out of bed to find both girls dancing around the Christmas tree, still in their pajamas. "Dad! Dad! Santa came!" Maya shouted. "And he left presents for Zara too." Zara stood frozen in front of the tree, staring at the presents with her antennae quivering. "For me? But I have only been good for 4 days. And I gave him only a match." Ethan knelt beside her. "Santa doesn't measure goodness in days, Zara. He measures it in hearts. And you have a very good heart." They opened presents together. Maya squealed with delight over her tablet. But when Zara opened her main present, she went completely still. It was a photo frame, digital and programmable. On the screen was an image Ethan had found in the station's immigration database, a family photo from when Zara had first arrived on the station with her parents. They were Melani like her, with the same lavender skin and expressive antennae, and they were smiling at the camera with their daughter between them. "Your parents," Ethan said softly. "I thought you might want to remember them. The frame can display different photos, and I've loaded it with all the images I could find from the station's records. And there's room for new photos too. Photos of all of us together." Zara's antennae wrapped around themselves, and tears streamed down her face. She clutched the frame to her chest and made that sound again, the one that was joy and sorrow mixed together. Maya immediately hugged her, and then Ethan wrapped his arms around both girls. "Thank you," Zara whispered. "Thank you, Ethan Cole." "Thank you, Maya." I thought I had lost everything, but you have given me a new family. You gave us something too, Ethan said. You reminded us what Christmas is really about. It's not about the presents or the decorations. It's about opening your heart and your home to someone who needs it. They sat together in front of the tree for a long time, just being a family. Eventually, Maya noticed one more present tucked behind the tree. What's this one? It says it's for all of us. Ethan smiled. Open it and see. Inside the box was a set of ornaments, clearly custom-made. 3 figures holding hands. A man, a human girl, and a Melani girl. Underneath was engraved, "The Cole family, first Christmas together." Maya squealed and immediately hung it on the tree. Zara touched it gently, tracing the figure that represented her with one delicate finger. "The Cole family," she repeated softly. "I am part of the Cole family." "You absolutely are," Ethan confirmed. Later that day, after a Christmas feast that Zara declared was even better than Christmas Eve dinner, they had visitors. Several of Ethan's co-workers from the recycling plant stopped by with small gifts and well wishes. Word had spread about the alien girl Ethan had taken in, and people wanted to meet her. What surprised Ethan most was how quickly people fell in love with Zara. Her curiosity was infectious, her questions insightful, and her earnest attempts to understand human culture were endearing. By the end of the day, she'd been invited to 3 separate birthday parties and had acquired a standing invitation to Mrs. Chun from Apartment 204's weekly cooking lessons. "Your daughter is delightful," Mrs. Chun told Ethan. "Both of them are. You're doing a wonderful thing, Ethan." "I'm just doing what anyone should do," Ethan replied. Mrs. Chun shook her head. "Most people don't, though. Most people walk right past someone in need. You stopped and helped. That's rare." That night, as Ethan was tucking the girls into bed, Zara asked one more question. "Ethan, in human culture, what is a father exactly? I know the biological definition, but the ship captain told me I had no father anymore. He said I was alone. But you do father things for me. You provide food and shelter and teaching. You gave me my parents' images. Does that make you a father to me?" Ethan felt his throat tighten with emotion. He sat on the edge of the bed between both girls. In the most important ways, being a father isn't about biology. It's about showing up every day, taking care of someone, teaching them, protecting them, and loving them. "If you want me to be your father, Zara, I would be honored." Zara's antennae performed an elaborate dance, and she reached out to take his hand. "I would like that very much. I would like to call you father, if that is allowed." "It's more than allowed," Ethan said, his eyes stinging with tears. "It's wanted. Does that make me your sister?" Maya asked Zara excitedly. "Like officially?" "I believe it does," Zara said solemnly. "I have never had a sister before. In Melani culture, siblings share life bonds. We protect each other, teach each other, and grow together. I promise to be a good sister to you, Maya. And I promise to be a good sister to you," Maya declared. Then she paused. "Even if you ask weird questions about sugar plums." All 3 of them laughed, and Ethan felt a sense of completeness he hadn't experienced since his wife had passed. His family was different now, not what he'd expected or planned, but it was whole again. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Ethan enrolled Zara in the station school, where she excelled in every subject and made friends with her characteristic enthusiasm. Her teachers reported that she had an exceptional mind for science and mathematics, though she also showed a surprising talent for art. Maya appointed herself as Zara's cultural ambassador, teaching her the intricacies of playground politics, the proper way to trade snacks at lunch, and the most important slang terms. In return, Zara taught Maya about Melani culture, including basic words in her native language and the traditional stories her mother had told her. The apartment became a blend of human and Melani culture. They celebrated both Christmas and coming light. They cooked both Earth foods and Melani dishes that Ethan learned to make from galactic recipe databases. Zara's photo frame held a place of honor on the living room shelf, now filled with images of all 3 of them together. The legal process of making Zara's custody permanent took several months. There was paperwork, interviews, home visits, and countless bureaucratic hurdles. But through it all, Ethan never wavered. When the final approval came through, naming Ethan as Zara's legal guardian with the full blessing of the Melani government, they celebrated with a small party. Sandra, The caseworker who had helped them from the beginning stopped by with a gift. It was a blanket embroidered with the words, "Home is where the heart is," in both standard and Melani script. "You did good, Mr. Cole," Sanders said. "A lot of people talk about helping, but you actually did it. You changed that little girl's life." Ethan watched Zara and Maya playing together in the corner, giggling over some private joke. "She changed mine too," he said softly. One evening, about 6 months after that first Christmas, Ethan came home from work to find both girls working on a project at the kitchen table. Papers were spread everywhere, covered in drawings and notes. "What's all this?" he asked, loosening his work uniform. Maya looked up with excitement. "We're planning next Christmas." Zara had the best idea. Zara's antennae waved enthusiastically. "Father, I have been thinking. You found me selling matches in the snow because I was alone and cold. But there are many beings on this station who are alone. Not all of them are children, but they are still lonely. What if, next Christmas, we did something to help them?" Ethan sat down at the table, intrigued. "What did you have in mind?" "A Christmas dinner," Zara explained, her eyes shining. "For anyone who has nowhere else to go. Humans, aliens, everyone. We could serve food and share stories and make sure no one is alone on Christmas. Maya says the community center has a large space we could use. And we could ask people to donate food and decorations." Maya added, "Mrs. Chun said she'd help cook, and Mr. Patterson from your work said he'd donate dishes." Ethan looked at the detailed plans they'd made, complete with budgets, menu ideas, and a list of potential volunteers. His heart swelled with pride. 6 months ago, Zara had been a frightened child selling matches in the snow. Now she was planning a community event to help others in need. "I think it's a wonderful idea," Ethan said. "Let's do it." The next Christmas was indeed special. The community center was transformed into a winter wonderland, decorated by volunteers from all over the station. The dinner served over 200 people, a mix of humans and various alien species, all of whom would have otherwise spent the holiday alone. Zara moved through the crowd with confidence, welcoming guests and making sure everyone felt included. She told the story of her first Christmas with the Cole family to anyone who would listen, explaining how one act of kindness had changed her entire life. "That is why we do this," she told an elderly Centauran who had been abandoned by his family. "Because someone showed me that kindness matters. That one person can make a difference. And now I want to be that person for someone else." Ethan watched his daughter, his pride almost overwhelming. She was no longer the cold, frightened child he'd found in the snow. She was confident, compassionate, and determined to make the galaxy a better place. That night, after all the guests had left and the cleanup was done, the Cole family returned to their apartment. They sat together in front of their Christmas tree, now adorned with 2 years' worth of ornaments and memories. "Father," Zara said softly, "do you remember when you found me? I was trying to sell matches to survive. I thought my life was over. But you showed me that it was just beginning." Ethan pulled both girls close. "You know what I've learned, Zara? Helping you wasn't just good for you. It was good for all of us. You've made our family better, made our community better. You've reminded all of us what really matters." "What's that?" Maya asked. "That we take care of each other," Ethan said simply. "No matter where we come from or what we look like. We see someone in need, and we help. That's what makes us human." "Well," he added with a smile at Zara, "that's what makes us good beings, whatever our species." Zara's antennae performed that elaborate dance that meant she was feeling multiple intense emotions at once. In Melani culture, we have a saying. Translated, it means, "The light of one candle can ignite thousands." You were my candle, Father. You and Maya. And now I hope to be a candle for others. You already are, Ethan assured her. You absolutely are. The months following that first Christmas brought challenges that Ethan hadn't fully anticipated. Learning to care for a Melani child meant understanding biological needs that were completely foreign to him. He spent countless nights researching Melani physiology, dietary requirements, and cultural practices. He learned that Melani needed specific minerals that weren't common in human foods, that their sleep cycles were slightly longer than human ones, and that their emotional processing was tied directly to the movement of their antennae. There were medical appointments with doctors who had never treated a Melani before. There were confused teachers trying to adapt lesson plans for a student whose brain processed information differently than human children. There were playground incidents where other children, not understanding Melani customs, accidentally offended Zara or made her feel excluded. Through it all, Ethan persevered. He became an expert on Melani culture by necessity. He connected with other families across the galaxy who had adopted alien children, forming a support network that helped him navigate the unique challenges. He advocated fiercely with the school administration to ensure Zara received appropriate accommodations. One particularly difficult incident occurred about 4 months after Zara joined their family. A group of older children at school had cornered Zara during recess, mocking her appearance and calling her names. They'd touched her antennae without permission, which Ethan learned was considered a serious violation in Melani culture, equivalent to assault. Zara had come home that day with her antennae pulled tight against her head, a sign of extreme distress. She refused to talk about what had happened, retreating into the kind of silence that reminded Ethan too much of the frightened child he'd found in the snow. It was Maya who finally got through to her. That night, Maya climbed into bed next to Zara and simply held her hand in the darkness. "I know something bad happened today," Maya said softly. "You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But I want you to know something. Those kids who were mean to you, they're wrong. There's nothing wrong with being different. You're amazing exactly as you are, and anyone who can't see that is stupid." Zara's antennae had slowly begun to relax. "They said I was a freak, that I didn't belong here, that I should go back to my own world. Well, they're idiots," Maya declared with all the fierce certainty of a 6-year-old. "This is your world now. You live here. You're my sister. And tomorrow, I'm going to make sure everyone at school knows that if they mess with you, they mess with me." True to her word, Maya had become Zara's fiercest protector at school. When she told Ethan about the incident, his fury had been volcanic. He'd marched into the principal's office the next morning and demanded action. The result was a school-wide assembly on diversity and respect, mandatory sensitivity training for staff, and strict consequences for the students involved. But more than that, the incident had sparked something in the community. Parents who had been skeptical or indifferent suddenly started paying attention. They saw a father fighting for his adopted alien daughter with the same intensity they'd fight for their own biological children, and it made them reconsider their own prejudices. Mrs. Chun had been particularly moved. She'd organized a neighborhood meeting where families discussed the importance of inclusion and acceptance. Several parents volunteered to help educate their children about different species and cultures. One father, who worked in the station's cultural center, offered to set up an exhibition about Melani culture so people could learn more. The exhibition had been Zara's idea, actually. She timidly suggested that maybe if people understood her culture better, they wouldn't be so quick to judge. Ethan had been amazed by her resilience, her ability to respond to cruelty not with anger, but with a desire to educate. The exhibition became a significant event on the station. Zara stood beside displays showing Melani history, art, and traditions, answering questions from curious visitors. She demonstrated traditional Melani communication through antennae movements, explained the significance of coming light festivals, and shared stories her mother had told her about their home world. Ethan watched with pride as his daughter transformed from a victim to an educator, from someone who was pitted to someone who was respected. But what touched him most was seeing how the experience changed Maya as well. His biological daughter developed a sophisticated understanding of prejudice and justice that was remarkable for someone so young. One evening, Maya had come to him with a serious expression. "Dad, I've been thinking. Zara had to leave her whole world behind because bad things happened. And now she's learning our human ways and celebrating our holidays. But we should learn her ways too, shouldn't we? It shouldn't be just her changing to fit in with us. We should change to fit with her too." Ethan had pulled Maya into a tight hug, his heart swelling with pride. "You're absolutely right, sweetheart. That's exactly what being a family means. We all adapt to each other." So they did. They learned Melani meditation techniques, which involved a form of synchronized breathing that Zara found calming. They studied Melani art, discovering that their traditional paintings used ultraviolet pigments invisible to human eyes, but which Zara could see clearly. They even tried to learn the Melani language, though the complex clicks and harmonics were difficult for human vocal cords to produce. Zara, for her part, embraced both her heritage and her new human family with equal enthusiasm. She started wearing a small pendant that combined human and Melani symbols, a gift from Maya, who had designed it herself. She spoke about my human family and my Melani ancestors with equal pride, seeing no contradiction between the two identities. The school year progressed, and Zara's academic achievements began to attract attention beyond the station. Her science project, which explored the possibilities of combining Melani bioluminescent technology with human solar panel efficiency, won the regional competition. The victory earned her an invitation to present at the Junior Galactic Science Forum, a prestigious event that drew young minds from across multiple systems. Ethan had scraped together credits for the trip, and the entire family traveled to the core systems for the forum. It was Maya's first time off station, and watching both his daughters experience the wonders of interstellar travel together was a joy Ethan would treasure forever. At the forum, Zara stood before an audience of hundreds, including some of the galaxy's leading scientists. She was nervous, her antennae betraying her anxiety by twitching erratically. But when she began to speak, her passion and knowledge shone through. She talked not just about the science, but about the importance of cross-species collaboration. She spoke about how her unique Melani perspective, combined with the resources and encouragement of her human family, had enabled her to see possibilities that neither culture might have discovered alone. "My father is human," she'd said during her presentation, her voice clear and strong. "My sister is human, but I am Melani. And together, we are proof that the galaxy is stronger when we embrace our differences rather than fear them. This solar panel design exists because I was given the chance to contribute my perspective, because a human family chose to see past my alien appearance to the person I am inside." The standing ovation had lasted for 5 minutes. Afterward, dozens of scientists had approached Zara with questions, collaboration offers, and mentorship proposals. One elderly researcher, a Centauran who had spent decades studying cross-species innovation, had pulled Ethan aside. "Your daughter is remarkable," the researcher had said. "Not just for her mind, though that is certainly impressive, but for her heart. She understands something that many adults never grasp, that our differences are our strength. You've raised her well." "She came to me already remarkable," Ethan had replied. "I just gave her a safe place to grow." The researcher had smiled. "Sometimes that's all it takes. A safe place to grow, and someone who believes in you." That trip marked a turning point for all of them. Maya, inspired by Zara's success, developed her own passion for xenobiology. She started a school club focused on learning about different alien species, and it quickly became one of the most popular activities on the station. Ethan watched with amazement as his 6-year-old daughter organized presentations, invited guest speakers, and facilitated discussions about cultural differences with the wisdom of someone much older. As for Zara, the recognition gave her confidence she'd never had before. She began mentoring younger students, both human and alien, who struggled with feeling different or out of place. She started a peer support group at school, creating a safe space for anyone who felt marginalized or alone. The following year brought its own set of challenges and triumphs. Zara went through a Melani coming-of-age ritual called the Awakening, which occurred around what would be considered 8 human years. It was a biological process where her antennae developed additional sensory capabilities, allowing her to detect emotional states in others through subtle chemical signals. The awakening was traditionally overseen by Melani elders, but with none available on New Geneva Station, Ethan had to learn how to guide Zara through the process himself. He'd contacted Melani cultural experts via long-range communications, spending hours in video conferences learning about traditional practices and modern adaptations. The ritual required Zara to spend a night in darkness and silence, meditating on her identity and purpose. Ethan had converted their small storage room into a meditation space, carefully controlling the temperature and atmosphere to match Melani preferences. He'd stayed up all night outside the door, ready to help if Zara needed him, but respecting her need to complete the ritual alone. When Zara emerged the next morning, her antennae had a subtle new iridescence, and her eyes held a deeper awareness. She'd hugged Ethan tightly and whispered, "Thank you, Father, for helping me honor my heritage. Many human parents would not have made the effort to understand. "You're my daughter," Ethan had replied simply. "Understanding you is an effort. It's privilege." The awakening changed Zara in subtle ways. Her new sensory abilities made her even more empathetic, able to detect when someone was hiding pain or struggling emotionally. She used this gift to help others, becoming someone that classmates sought out when they needed someone to talk to. But it also made her more aware of the prejudices that still existed. She could sense the discomfort some adults felt around her, the fear or disgust they tried to hide behind polite smiles. It hurt her, Ethan knew, even though she rarely complained. One evening, Zara had asked him a question that broke his heart. "Father, do you think there will ever be a time when people don't see me as an alien first and a person second?" Ethan had thought carefully before answering. "I don't know, sweetheart. Probably not in our lifetime, if I'm being honest. But I do know this. Every time you walk into a room with your head held high, every time you achieve something remarkable, every time you show kindness to someone who doesn't deserve it, you change minds. Maybe just one person at a time, but those changes add up. You're not responsible for fixing everyone's prejudice, but by being authentically yourself, you make the galaxy a little bit better." "Is that enough?" Zara had asked. "To just make things a little bit better?" "It's everything," Ethan had assured her. "Because that's how real change happens. Not in grand gestures, but in small moments of connection and understanding. You've already changed so many people's minds, Zara. You changed mine. You changed Maya's. You changed our whole neighborhood. That ripple effect will continue spreading long after we're gone." As the years passed, the Cole family became something of a symbol on New Geneva Station. They represented what was possible when people chose love over fear, when they built bridges instead of walls. Their annual Christmas dinner grew from a simple community meal to a major station event that attracted hundreds of attendees and dozens of volunteers. By the third year, they had to move the event to the station's main hall to accommodate everyone. Local businesses donated food and supplies. Artists created decorations that blended human and various alien traditions. Musicians performed songs from dozens of different cultures. It became a true celebration of diversity, all because one man had stopped to help a child in need. But the impact went beyond just the Christmas dinner. Inspired by the Cole family's example, other families began opening their homes to displaced alien children. The station established a formal foster and adoption program for non-human minors. New Geneva became known throughout the sector as a place where all species were welcome, where diversity was celebrated rather than merely tolerated. Zara and Maya remained close as they grew older. They had the kind of bond that transcended biology, finishing each other's sentences and supporting each other through every challenge. When Maya struggled with math, Zara tutored her patiently. When Zara faced discrimination, Maya defended her fiercely. They were sisters in every way that mattered. On their fifth Christmas together, something extraordinary happened. A Melani ship arrived at New Geneva Station, the first to visit since Zara's arrival. The captain contacted station authorities, requesting permission to meet with Zara Cole, the Melani child who had become famous for her advocacy work. Ethan had felt a surge of anxiety. What if they wanted to take Zara back? What if they disapproved of how he'd raised her? What if Zara decided she wanted to return to her people? But Zara had squeezed his hand and said calmly, "It will be okay, Father. This is my home. You are my family. Nothing will change that." The meeting took place in a neutral conference room at the station's administrative center. 3 Melani adults entered, their antennae moving in complex patterns as they observed Zara. The eldest, a female named Lyra, spoke first in the Melani language, which Zara had been studying and could now understand. Zara responded in kind, and for several minutes, Ethan could only watch as his daughter conversed with members of her own species for the first time in 5 years. He saw her antennae moving in ways he'd never seen before, participating in a form of communication that was as much physical as verbal. Finally, Lyra turned to Ethan and switched to standard. "We came because word of Zara reached our home world. A Melani child, adopted by a human, thriving and achieving remarkable things. Some of our people were skeptical. Some were concerned that she had lost her culture, been assimilated into human society at the cost of her heritage. But I see now that those concerns were unfounded." Zara hasn't lost her culture, Ethan said carefully. We've worked hard to honor her heritage while also welcoming her into our family. Lyra's antennae waved approvingly. Indeed, I can see in her posture, in her speech patterns, in the way she moves, that she is culturally Melani. But I also see the influence of her human family in her confidence, her assertiveness, her willingness to engage with other species. You have raised her to be both Melani and human, or perhaps something even better, a bridge between worlds. She turned back to Zara. Child, I have a question for you. Would you ever consider returning to the Melani home world? We have educational opportunities, cultural experiences, connections to your people that you cannot have here. Ethan's heart clenched, but he remained silent. This was Zara's decision to make. Zara looked at Lyra, then at Ethan, then at Maya, who had insisted on attending the meeting. Her antennae moved in a pattern that Lyra seemed to find significant. I am honored by the offer, Zara said carefully. And I would very much like to visit the Melani home world someday, to see where my parents came from, to connect with my heritage in a deeper way. But my home is here. My family is here. Ethan Cole is my father. Maya Cole is my sister. New Geneva Station is where I belong. She paused, then continued with growing confidence. I think perhaps I can serve my people better by staying here, by being an example of what's possible when species work together. I want to show other Melani children who might find themselves alone that they can build new families without losing who they are. I want to show humans that alien children are not so different, that we all need love and belonging. This is my purpose, I think. This is where I'm meant to be. Lyra's antennae performed an elaborate dance that Ethan didn't understand, but Zara clearly did. She responded with her own antennae movements, and then Lyra did something unexpected. She placed her hand on Zara's head in a gesture that seemed profoundly meaningful. You honor your parents, Lyra said softly. You honor your people, and you honor your chosen family. The Melani government officially recognizes your adoption and gives its blessing to your human family. Ethan Cole, you are acknowledged as Zara's father in Melani law, as well as human law. May your family continue to thrive. The formal recognition meant more than Ethan had expected. It validated everything they'd built together, gave official weight to bonds that had been forged through love and choice rather than biology. Before the Melani delegation left, they gave Zara several gifts. Traditional clothing from her family's region, recordings of Melani music and stories, and a data crystal containing her family's genealogical history going back generations. Most precious of all was a message from distant relatives who had survived the plague, expressing their joy at learning she was alive and well cared for. That night, the Cole family sat together viewing the genealogical data. Zara traced her lineage with one finger while Maya asked excited questions about Melani names and traditions. Ethan watched his daughters, biological and adopted, united in their curiosity and love, and felt grateful beyond measure. Look, Zara said, pointing at the screen. My great-grandmother was a scientist too. She developed new cultivation methods for light plants. I think I get my love of science from her. You definitely do, Maya agreed. I bet she'd be really proud of you. I think she would be, Zara said softly. Then she looked at Ethan. But I think my father and mother, my birth parents, would be proud too. Not just of my achievements, but of the family I found. They always taught me that family is the most important thing. They would be grateful that I found a new family who loves me. Ethan had to clear his throat before speaking. I like to think they're watching somehow, and they know you're safe and loved. Years later, Zara would grow up to become a prominent advocate for displaced children across the galaxy. She would establish the Coming Light Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping abandoned alien children find homes and families. She would give speeches at the Galactic Council, write books, and change countless lives. But she would always say that it all started on one cold Christmas Eve, when a single human father stopped to help a little alien girl selling matches in the snow. When he chose kindness over convenience. When he opened his home and his heart to someone in need. And she would always carry that lesson with her. That one act of compassion can change everything. That families aren't just born, they're built. And that the true spirit of any holiday, human or alien, is the decision to care for one another. The Cole family continued to host their Christmas dinner every year, and it grew larger each time. It became a station tradition, a symbol of what their community could be when people chose to see past species and status to the fundamental truth that connected them all. They were all just beings trying to make their way in a vast galaxy. And sometimes, all it took to change a life was the decision to stop, to see, and to care. Ethan never regretted his decision that snowy Christmas Eve. How could he? He'd gained a daughter, enriched his family, and learned that the capacity for love wasn't limited by biology or species. It was simply a choice, made new each day. And it all started with a little girl selling matches in the snow, and a father who refused to walk past someone in need. On their 10th Christmas together, as the Cole family gathered around their tree with Maya, now 16, and Zara, 15, they added a new ornament to their collection. It was a box of matches, preserved in clear resin, with an inscription, "Where it all began." Zara held it carefully, her antennae waving gently. "Do you know what I've realized, Father? Those matches I was selling that night, they were supposed to bring light and warmth to others. But I was so cold and lost, I couldn't even light them for myself. You gave me the light I needed. You gave me warmth. You gave me home." Ethan wrapped his arms around both his daughters. "And you gave us just as much, Zara. You reminded us that family is about choice and love, not just blood. You showed us that the measure of a person isn't where they come from, but who they choose to be." Maya, now a teenager but still as warm-hearted as ever, chimed in. "Plus, you taught me that asking weird questions is actually really cool, and that sugar plums are still confusing even after 10 years. They all laughed, and the sound filled their small apartment with joy. Outside, snow was falling again on New Geneva Station. But inside the Cole family's home, there was nothing but warmth, love, and the light of a family that had chosen each other. A family that proved, every single day, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its reach across the stars. It was its capacity for compassion, its willingness to see a stranger in need and say, without hesitation, "You are not alone. You are seen. You are valued. You are home." And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.